Extreme.
I'd like to start the Public Safety, Health, and Welfare meeting at 7 o'clock. Those in attendance are Councilwoman Gilchrist, Committee Member Heeman, Councilmember Limpert, Councilman Madden, Councilman Mari, Councilman Chemsky, the HR Director, the Safety Director, the Recreation Director, the Special Assistant to the Mayor, and now the President of Council. We have two things to discuss. The first is liquor permit 88560439190 Texas Roadhouse Holdings LLC, DBA Texas Roadhouse, 25100 Country Club Boulevard. The police had no objections. Anyone have any questions?
No. Whose liquor permit is it?
Texas Roadhouse. So then I would move to recommend to council and ask for a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. And the other item on the agenda is 2024-94, now titled mobile food vehicles. Safety Director, would you care to comment on it?
Nothing has changed since we revisited it at committee last week.
Mm-hmm.
I provided an overview of what some of the changes are. We spoke by phone, you had some questions, and we went back and forth a little bit on that. The law director and I would like to limit exceptions to this to make it easier to enforce. But there's no additional information beyond what was presented last week.
Okay, let the record reflect, we've now been joined by the mayor. I mean, the big changes are the title itself, no vehicle can be on any given street for more than 1 day a week. They have to comply with the health code of Cuyahoga County and the fire marshal. And property owners now have to make sure they're in compliance with the new chapter. Any questions from committee?
No, I don't have any. I think that this is a much nicer and more enforceable piece of legislation than what we were saying.
I would agree. I would think it's a lot easier to police, and it should be good. So, with that, I make a move to
May I address
Go ahead.
the committee? 73508G says, except for operation at a private party at which mobile food vehicles are permitted, no mobile food vehicle shall dispense food on the same street on more than 1 day in any 7-day period, inclusive of the first date of dispensing. Now, at the committee meetings that we held last year, we brought up the problem of buildings where a food truck might go there just during the lunch hour to provide meals for employees in that building, or job sites like the new school, where the truck's going to be there to supply food, lunches for the guys who are working on the job site. This prohibits that. This doesn't allow it.
Well,
And I would like to know why.
Yeah, but
I would think with regard to construction sites, they're not viable business entities yet, right? They're under construction. So that I think is a little bit different of a scenario with regard to the other that you're talking about. I can't answer that, but construction sites, they're not occupied space yet. They're they don't have their permits, they don't really have an attachment like a business does. That,
No, but they have an owner.
well, correct, but it's still not something that, you know, they might not have all their permits through the building department. So I would say that's a different, wholly different use.
I would also make an observation, thank you, Mr. Chair, like that there's a lot of food trucks in the world today versus 5, 6, 7 years ago. And does it limit that only one, is it the same food truck? Is that in legislation, only one food truck can be there one day every
No.
7 days?
No.
Only the same food truck.
So it's the same food truck. So I think that's also, if anything, there's more opportunities for different food trucks to be able to service that situation, if that were the case. But in that case, it's also not a singular business that's just continually working out of one location instead of a fixed use place. So, I mean, I certainly think there could be conversations if that starts to arise, but, you know, I've seen where there's multiple different food trucks that come to different events on different days, and, you know, adds variety, and there's plenty of vendors out there that can support that.
Let the record reflect, the law director and the chief of police have joined us. Safety director, do you have anything to add?
No, the point in changing this legislation is to help mitigate, I think what was just discussed, is having one food truck pull up in one location and stay parked there in perpetuity, which is what we're experiencing right now. So what we're trying to do is put some constraints on that, where you can do business at one location on that street, whatever that street is, just one time a week. So you can't leave your food truck there overnight and just run your business out of a parking lot. You have to remove it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yes.
But what we talked about was just allowing the food truck to be there during certain hours. They wouldn't be there all night, they wouldn't be there all day, just certain hours.
If the legislation that's before you now has changed substantially from what we were discussing at the end of last year. It was a very, very, very broad piece of legislation that got narrowed back down to look at mobile food vehicles. We started talking about temporary food operations and things like that. So this legislation has re-narrowed the focus back to essentially food trucks and food carts.
Anybody else have anything to add?
Can I raise a second point? Just real quick. In the definitions, under private party, the last sentence says, owner operators must provide written documentation of permission from property owner. Now, that's not a definition. It's something that's going to be required under the ordinance. So it shouldn't be in definitions. It should be moved over to 73508E, where it says you have to have the information about the property owner and that, and then why not put in there that he has to have this written permission to be there?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, law
I'll
director.
take a look at it.
Okay.
That's it.
Do you want me to hold it in committee, or is it?
Mr. Chairman, I might suggest that because this is really a completely different ordinance, there is a rule that we never really use. Rule 48 allows you to substitute an ordinance with the consent of council. We can, bring it out of, we don't have to do that tonight, but before the next meeting perhaps, a motion to substitute this version for the prior version, we'll table the prior version, and then we'll proceed with this. I can't remember that we've ever used it, because you don't want to make a motion to amend, because the whole thing's been amended.
Right.
So there is a rule, you and I can talk about it.
Okay.
If you want to keep it in committee right now, you and I can brief each other.
So I have to keep it in committee, to hold in committee? Okay.
Yeah, and then I'll go ahead and get you, so that it can come out perhaps at the special council meeting, and we can get this thing moving. But I'll tell you how to do that. So
Okay.
it's a rule that rarely, if ever, has been used, but it's appropriate. So if you hold it in committee, I'll help you with that.
Sound good. So I make a motion to hold in committee 2024-94 and ask for a second.
Second.
Second by Councilman Heeman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes and the meeting ends at 7:10.
Sorry. quick.
All right, the caucus meeting of June 3rd, 2025 will now come to order at 7:15 p.m. Present are members of council, Blitzard, Gilchrist, Heeman, Limpert, Madden, Murray, Shinsky, the clerk of council, the mayor, the directors of law, human resources, safety, recreation, also the special assistant to the mayor, the chief of police, and guests. If there are no additions or corrections, the caucus meeting minutes of May 20th, 2025 are approved as written. Regarding suspension, there are 3 items on the agenda this evening being requested. The first of which is ordinance 2025-56, which is on first reading. Mayor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our safety director and our chief of police will address council regarding 56.
Thank you, Mayor and Mr. President. This is an ordinance to accept money from the State Attorney General's Office for our school resource officer program. It is partial funding for our 1 full-time school resource officer at the high school, 1 part-time at the middle school, and 1 part-time for the elementary school. This is money that we get every year, but are getting back on track and bringing this in front of you for acceptance. And I brought the chief here for any specific details you might have about the school resource officers and the work they do.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or objections from council? Mr. Limpert?
Just to clarify, so this is the same number of resources officers that we have currently?
Correct. And the reason we've asked for suspension is they would like to get the MOUs in front of their board before and get it approved before the end of the year, and they break for summer so that everything's set and ready to go for the beginning of the school year.
No objection, Mr. President.
And the rest of council, good? Okay. Next is ordinance 2025-57, also on first reading. Mayor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. The safety director and chief will address council regarding 57.
Thank you, Mayor, Mr. President, and members of council. This ordinance is asking for authorization for the mayor to accept a grant from the Ohio Office of Criminal Justice Services as part of their violent crime reduction initiative. There's no match on this grant. You'll see it was just over $146,600 that we got to try some new things for crime prevention in the city. 1, to establish a dedicated crime prevention officer. 2nd, to establish a saturation patrol to target hotspots and look for certain violent crimes. 3rd, to establish a community impact unit, which will go after the bad guys, especially those with outstanding felony warrants. And it will also allow us to lease an additional 8 flock license plate reader cameras. The big intersection that we're missing right now, as you might recall, we have 15 in the city already, but the one is at Country Club Boulevard and Great Northern Boulevard, coming right off of I-480, which is a big intersection for us to not have any eyes there. As you know, the hotels and motels along Country Club Boulevard, and then certainly all the retail and the mall, and that as a gateway to the city. The chief can speak directly to how incredibly useful the flock cameras are as a crime-solving tool. But it is a real opportunity. I've asked for suspension because, per usual, the start date on this was January 1st. The state released the grant notice in March, and they made notifications in May. So we essentially have 6 months to spend a full year's worth of funding.
Okay. Chief, do you have anything to add?
I think Mr. President, members of council, you've heard me speak in the past when we started our flock LPRs. I think we're probably on our 4th or 5th year now. It's probably one of the greatest law enforcement tools that we have. Keep in mind that the LPRs merely take a picture of a vehicle. They don't display or hand out any private individual's information whatsoever. But we have, the day we turned them on here in the city of North Olmsted, we solved crimes with. We've solved a fatal hit-skip accident using the LPRs. It helps us develop a timeline throughout the city of if we have, let's say, a crime at Giant Eagle, we can often track those vehicles when they come into the city, when they come out of the city. And like the safety director said, we've had county license plate readers at the intersection of I-480 and Great Northern Boulevard for 15 or so years now. The technology there is old and antiquated, so this new technology is a newer version of license plate readers, and the flock keeps us all on one platform. So it helps us cover the missing spots in our city.
And the majority of the money, part of it is to lease the 8 new block cameras, but the rest goes to personnel and training to cover the time for saturation patrols and work of the impact unit, and to send whomever the identified crime prevention officer is to special training so that he or she can get certifications for it. So it's a real investment in crime prevention and with a strategic program that we're excited to put into motion.
All right, thank you. Any objections from council to suspension? Councilman Lippert?
Yeah, so what are all the criminal and legal uses you can do with a license plate reader? Like, you can't pick up somebody for speeding or anything like that, it's just all for identification, right?
That's correct. They are not used to target like a speed camera or a red light camera or anything like that. They do not function in that way. They merely take a picture of cars going through that intersection, and then we can search for a specific car. If we have a red Toyota with a white bumper sticker, we can actually search that, and then that will give us a potential plate and a potential suspect that we can then, law enforcement legally, search the plate and develop suspects that way.
No objections, President.
All right, and lastly, for suspension is Resolution 2025-58, also on first reading.
Thank you, Mr.
Safety
President.
Director.
Actually, it's the Director of Recreation and Community Engagement.
Spreading the wealth this year.
Flocks all around.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council President and Council. And it was a great segue that all my questions should have been answered in the last resolution ordinance. This is, we were awarded a grant from CDSG in 2024, and we $46,000 for restroom renovations as well as security over the park. We had every intention of bringing this to you without suspension, but our deadline was moved up by a month by the county. 22nd of May, without even alerting us until the following week. This is for 5 cameras, which includes 2 of the license plate readers that will be installed at North Olmsted Community Park on the senior center side, facing the restrooms and the parking lot on that side. It's all the reasons that the chief and the safety director have already mentioned. This is absolutely like a great addition that we would have to the park for security. We are asking to suspend it because we need to turn in the receipts and the agreement so we can get reimbursed for the funds.
Okay. Thank you. Any objections from council to suspension?
No, but I have questions if I may. Thank you, Mr. President. So these cameras are going to be monitored by our own police department as well as the...
If I'm not mistaken, Chief, there's a monitoring service that alerts the police department when something is a
These
problem.
will be monitored only by the police department, and so I believe some of them are motion activated. So as you know, my officers responded for the last several years to quite a few vandalism calls into the restrooms and different park equipment. So this, after hours will alert to motion and alert the dispatch and we can send officers to respond, and then also the LPRs if there's people driving in and out of the.
Okay, and these are the same then that we have at the rec center and Springvale?
They're not.
No, they're different.
They're different,
These
okay.
these are supported by the grant though that we just got, so.
Not
CD
the same type?
They're not, they're more advanced, yes.
Okay. That's all I have. Mr. Lambert?
And for this one, can these also be used for any kind of evidence from individual, on individual action? Because these are gonna, you're doing it for identification and vandalism and stuff, but can that security footage be used if any other legal complaints were logged, let's say to, for like a civil case or anything like that?
I don't know. I can't answer the retention time on the actual camera itself. The police department, we have a 30-day retention on our videos that we're required to hold, and after that, sometimes our video systems hold longer, and if we possess the record, we will turn it over on a public record. I'm not sure the retention basis time on a flock camera. We don't hold the data, they do, and that's part of the lease agreement. So that's a great question. I could probably get you the answer to it in short order. But, if there was another crime, or let's say there was I'll just use an example, there was a fight near the restroom and it was caught on camera, I'm sure that could be a public record that could be utilized.
Okay.
Be a law question, I would say.
Mr. Chairman, it could be with the proper authentication. There's no reason why that couldn't be used as evidence at a hearing, either a juvenile court hearing or in a Rocky River, if there was some sort of criminal damaging or fights, things like that. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
All right. Let's move into assigning legislation, Resolution 2025-58, which is on suspension, is assigned to Recreation, Public Parks and Buildings. Resolution 2025-53, ordinances 2025-54, 55, and 59 are assigned to Finance. And then ordinances 2025-56 and 57, both of which are on suspension, are assigned to Public Safety, Health, and Welfare. And that'll lead us into scheduling committee meetings for next Tuesday, June 10th, 2025. I'll start out by indicating I'm going to schedule a committee of the whole for 7 o'clock to discuss the recommendation from the Charter Review Commission, which was emailed to all of you last Friday. I anticipate the meeting will last about 10 minutes. And I'd ask that any individuals in support or in opposition to the amendment, please attend. Thank you. Councilman Lippert, then, would you like to schedule a Finance Committee meeting on behalf of Councilman Scarl?
I would, Mr. President, thank you. So that's for 53, correct? And then as well as 54, 55, and 59?
Correct.
Okay. I'm gonna schedule that for 35 minutes. I'm not sure how long 59 will take. I'll try to get some feedback, but I'm gonna schedule for 35 minutes because there's a lot here. Yes, that the finance director, Mayor, do you think the economic development director needs to be in there?
Yes.
Okay, economic development director and any other of the mayor's designees be present.
Okay. Thank you. So that'll be 7:10 to 7:45.
Oh, Mr. President, can the law director come too? Mr. Brown?
It's next
Tuesday?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
7:10 to 7:45.
7:10 to 7:45, thank you.
All right, so then additionally, I'm announcing a special council meeting to be held Tuesday, January 10th, June 10th, 2025, at 7:50 p.m., following the Finance Committee meeting, to allow current legislation and newly introduced legislation to have their readings and subsequent votes before Council's July recess. Also, I'll be scheduling an executive session during next week's special council meeting to consider the purchase of property for public purposes. Lastly, we will have some police and fire swearing-ins and promotions at tonight's council meeting. Does anyone on council have anything else they wish to bring up this evening? Anything from the administration?
No, Mr. President.
Thank you. Seeing nothing else, the caucus meeting of June 3rd, 2025 is adjourned at 7:30 p.m.